In boardrooms all across Nepal, AI is the topic on everyone's mind. But, behind this huge push for innovation, a very expensive problem is starting to surface. So today, we're going to break down the critical strategic mistake that's causing most of these big-budget AI initiatives to fail.
You see, in this frantic race to get ahead with AI, a lot of businesses are just overlooking a fundamental truth. And this has led to a silent but incredibly costly crisis. It's a problem that's not about a lack of technology, it's about focusing on the completely wrong part of the equation.
So here's how we'll tackle this. First, we'll look at the high-stakes AI race happening in Nepal and figure out the real reason for all these failures. Then we'll check out a blueprint for success from a regional leader, predict a major market correction that's coming in 2025, and finally, we'll lay out the critical choice that every leader is now facing.
All right, let's dive in. The whole AI situation in Nepal right now is, well, it's a paradox. Companies are pouring in massive amounts of money, but what they're getting is widespread, systemic failure. The real question is, why?
Well, the core mistake is this. Companies are trying to build the fancy penthouse suite, that flashy AI algorithm, before they've even poured the foundation. They are literally trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. And believe me, the cracks are already starting to show. And that swamp? Well, that leads us right to the biggest thing holding back Nepal's tech revolution, what our sources are calling the data swamp.
Now, this isn't about not having enough data. Oh no, most companies are drowning in it. The real issue is that their data is a toxic mess of broken records, systems that don't talk to each other, and all sorts of inconsistent formats. It's completely unusable for any serious AI project.
This image really shows the journey. You start with raw data, just a bunch of isolated facts. The goal, of course, is to get to insight, intelligence you can actually act on. But there's this huge gap right in the middle. That missing bridge that's supposed to turn useless data into valuable information, that's data governance. And that's exactly where most companies are falling flat.
And this brings us to the fundamental mistake in strategy. All the focus, all the money is going towards the tool, the algorithm. It makes sense, right? It's visible. It's something a CEO can show off to the board. But the material it needs to work with, that clean, organized data, is abstract, it's invisible, and it's being totally ignored. And that right there is the real source of all these failures.
And believe me, this mistake has a price. When you chase speed by skipping the hard work of data preparation, you create something called technical debt. Every single shortcut you take today isn't really saving you time. It's like you're borrowing against your company's future at a ridiculously high interest rate.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the answer? Well, for a blueprint, we can actually look at the disciplined, foundational approach taken by a regional leader, India.
The incredible speed of AI innovation happening in India isn't just because of raw talent. It's actually built on a decade of disciplined, nationwide data governance. They created the India Stack, a standardized digital bedrock for everything from identity to payments. And it proves a really counterintuitive lesson. The speed you see today is a direct result of the slow, hard, foundational work they did yesterday.
So the main takeaway here is that the kind of agility we admire in our neighbors, it's not the result of taking shortcuts. It's the dividend that gets paid out for making a long-term investment in governance and structure. Simple as that.
Now, this deep, foundational problem is about to force a painful but unavoidable turning point for businesses all across Nepal. A major market correction is on the horizon.
Here's what we predict. By 2025, the market is going to correct itself hard. A staggering 80% of the budgets that were originally set for AI innovation are going to be reallocated. They're going to be funneled into the essential, unglamorous work of cleaning data, setting up governance, and finally building that solid foundation. But this massive budget shift shouldn't be seen as a step back. It's not an admission of failure at all. In fact, it is the single most important strategic investment a company can possibly make in its own future.
So this market correction is going to present every leader with a very clear, almost binary choice. And the decision they make will define the next decade, revealing two very different paths forward.
Okay, on one side, you've got the strategic pivot. These leaders are going to hit pause, reallocate their budgets to fix the foundation. And yeah, they'll probably look like they're falling behind for a little while. On the other side, you have the stubborn incumbent. Trapped by ego and sunk costs, they'll just keep pouring money into new tools that are doomed to fail. One path leads to total market dominance by 2027,
The other leads to being completely and decisively outmaneuvered.
The winning strategy is actually to slow down to speed up. It takes real discipline to spend 2025 and 2026 doing that hard foundational work. But that's what sets you up for the incredible speed and market capture that will define who wins in 2027 and beyond.
So, at the end of the day, the new battlefield for competitive advantage, it isn't about technology anymore. It's about discipline. This race won't be won by the company that's first to buy an AI, it'll be won by the company that's first to truly master its data.
And this leaves us with one final, unavoidable question that every single leader now needs to ask themselves. Look at your business. Are you building its future on solid rock, or are you building it on a swamp?